Mr. Ahmed Al Jowder has had a very interesting career. A large part of his career was spent with the Ministry of Housing. The Ministry of Housing is Bahrain's biggest developer. You know many people probably, or you yourself may have lived in the Ministry of Housing house. And then he moved on to teaching at the University of Bahrain, teaching at Kingdom University. So when we talk about Dr. Ahmed, we're not just talking about a thinker, someone who's taught, but we're also talking about a practitioner. In this case, not only are we talking about the architect who sits in an office and sketches and then supervises work, rather we're talking about someone who thought, sketched, and built with his own hands. So not only are we going to experience an architect the way we know an architect today, but we're going to experience how a master builder, what architecture truly means, what architect truly means. We're going to experience what a master builder has accomplished. Without further ado, you're not here to listen to me. Let's all welcome Dr. Ahmed with a big round of applause.
In fact, Ali sent me this brochure or banner, and then he followed by another one. He said, this is sent by mistake. There is another one updated. You see it first. In fact, I look to it, I see in this, I don't take mistakes, I don't take it happen as a mistakes. I look at the mistakes as sending to me a message. I had to think about it, it maybe lead to something. I can see grid, I can see things. A designer, his hands, if he invests on it, he can reach a lot of things. It's kind opportunities for jump instead of going in a slow process. I will speak of before an introduction. The topics here, the theme, don't let it scare you. All of them, each one need a lecture by itself, but I will be concentrating on things that affect my way and my thinking. And after the introduction, I will go with you exploring Arwadan. The house I grew in, memory deceiving. When I remember, the earliest time I remember I born in this house. This house couldn't be taken in a picture without, no car can reach here because the building in the front of it has been demolished. I can take a shot for it. This is my earliest memory, but my mother told me, no, we only live in this house for 2 years, while our original house was under building. Actually, my own house was traditional house. Part of it is very old, and second part is old. When we moved to this house, they demolished the very old and built a new. This has happened in the year of 76, 75. Sorry, 56, 57. I grew in a traditional house. I have a new division and I have old division. I live in such house. I compare. I see the old part, more intimate, spaces is well defined, warm in winter, cool in summer. I see the opposite in the new. I raised this, nobody taught me. I experience it, I live in it. And I continue grow. I see all the kids playing in our house, girls and boys. It's a big house, and all gather and celebrating life. I remember my childhood. I feel the world is nice and beautiful. As I grow up, I realize that the world is also harsh and cruel, and my mother told me a story about my grandfather, that he's kind of man who always stand by the poor, the needy, the underprivileged. He takes social responsibility. When he go to the market, he see which man he didn't sell good, and he go buy from him. That's his doing. He feel, my mother told me about her father, he want to shorten the gap between the well and the well-off and the poor. This is his way he is thinking. I like this idea. She always told me to stand by the weak, stand by the need. وقف مع الضعوف, according to her advices. Meaning of architecture is very important. We know the architecture from the theories book, from this, but this is not the actual architect. Architect and architecture, we, by our practice, what we do, what we think, we give them a meaning in life, in real life. It is nothing like in the book and the real world. In the real world, when I was at I finished 3.5 years from my study. There is I had to work for training, part of your academic work. I joined an architect office. It was a shock for me, especially completely shock. I raised in a department where things is ideal, what is architecture, what is and see the wall look to me not very strange. I felt they are doing crimes by their reduction and based on this how they deal with the. I didn't accept that. I forgot to mention to you, when I was in the secondary school, my direction was to go to study mechanical engineering. And later on, I thought the building I see, the new part of my house that I live with it, I thought this is architecture, and this is what to produce. So I have kind of hating architecture from the experience part I saw. But later I discovered something was new for me, that architecture is not is not building, it's not about building. Architecture about the vacuum, about the space, how to make a space. This space, I found nobody in the practice talk about space, talk about windows, talk about elevation, talk about material things. But architecture is the inside space. How you cover it? It's open. You can invent a new material to cover this open space. It's important that this space become, you're building something for healing. It should be this space a positive support healing. If you are building for education, the spaces should be enabling learning and enabling teaching and enabling this. I thought there was a problem with communication. Communication, how on different level on the design, how you relate the section in a project, how make relationship between them, and communication even between the stakeholders, how the user communicate his needs to the architect, to others. But there is a problem in this communication. The real needs of the user doesn't go to the brief design. And many of a project, after they finish, you see, immediately they start correcting here and here and here, because the real needed of this building never identified, never well studied. My personal experience after the experience with training with this architect office, I decided to abandon the architecture. I start thinking, even in the curriculum, I start choosing housing, selective and advanced urban planning. I avoided the courses related to architecture. I said to architecture, goodbye. But realizing how the world is cruel and so many suffering in the world, I affiliated with Barefoot Architects. My relation with them start very early up till now, consisting in continuing communication with them. We work on many of the world in a project with special needs, and we have a group that have members of the United Nations. Our comments go to the United Nations Habitat, hopefully improve the situation of the needy. I will introduce the men who start with me the work. The one in the middle, his name is Ahmed Al Jowder. He was builder and the one on the right, Balu, and the one here on the third, Jason, their names. These, I took them from a contractor to work with me. Actually, I trained them. Both of them have experience because he assigned them in the work to assist electrician, to assist carpenter, to assist builder. But at some times we need full expert in one, we can call on him. Those work with me in the house for the long time. The house, I took decision that it is my opportunity to exercise architecture project. Also, there is an incident happened a year before this. There was house I believe the historical assistic it is important that you see your own history, your old building. You build kind of a stock. It's guide your choices in the future. So you can exercise institution. It's very important in design to utilize institution. Not necessary if you follow a process by putting an idea, criticizing it, put another layer, as we do in the design. Second, you grow limited. But each step justified, and you can, but through institution, you can jump quickly, but you cannot jump from a vacuum. To make this jump, you need to fill your memory with a lot of preparation to you can enjoy this. It comes from long experience and long. The incident which I really through, there is a house was completely blocked. I tried to visit, but I couldn't figure out how to get in. One night I come, it was with the sunset, and I pushed the door, it was open. I was heavy. I just see it was the sunset cannot take camera. That time no digital camera like now, and I like the stairs in this house. I saw a stair which is taking 0 area from the house. All area under the stair used. It's attached to kitchen, attached to this room, attached to storage, bath under it. I decided to come next day to survey the house, take pictures. I came like 8:30. The bulldozer took off all the house. And they are crushing it with its windows, doors, and put it in the tracks and take it away. Something came to my mind to take the tracks which are coming, to take them to my land and resurrect this house from again to build another house from the debris of the house. But time passed. When I get the land, I start collecting doors from recycled materials, old windows. Also, the word, this is related to Nazala. I analyzed the word Nazala and Sakana. Also, there are other words related to housing. Nazala related to the land. It had to be go down. And Sakana related to relationship between the family. That between them love, between them intimacy, between them understanding. This what make Sakina was Sukun. So I concluded that the house must be impressed by earth. The building material I use is stones. The brown stones, these are recycled from debris of the building. The irregular stone, when I dig my land, I dig like 2 meters. And there is a ground, hard ground like a concrete. 50 centimeter above this 2 meter, the hard rock, there was stones, but it is fragmented. I took the fragment, this is one of the fragmented stones above the hard stones. And there are many of these stones. And I use date palm trunks here between the walls. Using palm trunk, structurally it supports the stone. Also, if water rise, the track will absorb water, and I can replace the track. The one in the bottom, these were blasters. At that time, in the 80s something, there was a spread of white ants, and it is especially happening in old abandoned houses. Here in this plaster, I put powder. I did this in experimentally. The powder, wooden powder, and I use nisharat al-khashab, which is wood waste from grinding the wood. This one. My idea, it's come for the ants. If it come, and instead of going up to the wooden roof, I can detect it, how it affects the plaster from the immediate, because ants underground go up, sort of he eats this, will the idea also, in building my house, I wanted to be an open house. Students come, colleagues come, we discuss, we have like a team group. I want also the others identify their needs, communicating with people when they ask them about their needs. They don't define their needs by their physical or psychological needs. They define them by number of rooms, define them by size, 4 meter by numbers. I don't accept this as a need. I understand. I need something give me hope. This has become a challenge for an architect. If I make architect just to produce rooms, maybe the civil engineer can produce a room better than me. This is the people when they visit. I find it's difficult for people. I realize that in teaching and education, we never taught our young girls about space. The space is missing. They treat it as nothing, while space is everything. We move in a space, we do our work in a space. I think education need to make students, since they are young, aware about spaces. I found in Scandinavia and Sweden, teaching the school, they make them aware of their schools, of their class, their community, their something need to develop this to make they feel. Here you see some dental, wood load, some bamboo, all this from recycled material. I will show you quickly the house. Here the plan. This plan drawn after the building is ready. That time there was still the professional practice committee doesn't exist yet. At that time, any engineer can sign and only he need to be a member of Society of Engineers. Anyone can produce map and sign it, and municipality accept. I draw croquis, almost not a big difference, but a lot of the details happen on the ground. Here, what you see, there is a main road on this side, and here neighbors. At the back there is a lane, pedestrian lane, and then garden. Okay. Here, the main street. Here, pedestrian lane, and then garden. Here, neighbors, and here, neighbors. Here, the garage. garage, kitchen, here living quarter, reception, here bedrooms. I have courts, several courts, and while building, I extended a few things at the roof. There is a maid room, here gym, and here a bath. Here I make a study room. This is overlooking the living room. And here, the roof are, here a section, here the roadside, here going down in the earth. The house entrance is with the ground level. Here, the plan. Here, this is a room I devised for my mother. The room, the kitchen, court, here the gate. It is on the ground level. So my mother, father, when they come house, no whatever step. They come straight, walking to the thing. Usually, when parents come to home, they bring with them either watermelon or feast with them. They need to go to the kitchen to put it and enter their room. There are 3 gates. One, this is for daily, here for reception, and here backside for to the garden and this section. At entrances, there is a ritual at the entrance. I don't like the house to be just a door and a wall. No, because at entrance, you are practicing many rituals. It must take, because sometimes somebody coming ask you for help. The house must be welcoming. Sometimes rain in the street. Somebody walking need to take a shelter. There is many, you can put a lot of expectation for this ritual. Some of the ritual, when you receive the bride, if you have a bride in the house, or the groom, when you receive one come from abroad long time, when you receive a guest, these things, house should be celebrating this here, if you see, this is the main gate. The land, because it is a cross line, I took this here, cantilever, triangular cantilever, to make the upper with qibla. The qibla is like this. See, I want to tell you, this is a treatment of how to treat qibla is a practice in old traditional, when mostly the house is oriented toward qibla, but sometimes road, or lane, or they not exactly. They make cantilever to adjust over the. I copy this here. Yes, and design was developing. I said the entrance, the building near the road, the dynamics. The one sleeping need order. Behind them, lane, garden. I respect like Roman grid. But in the front, no, I make it to resist the street. Living quarter, it is have rooms, have courts, have patios extended to the rooms. Here, part of the living quarter. Because I played on the level of each room, many of the rooms have windows from 4 directions. Windows from 4 directions in the room keep the space very rich in lighting. And you feel, if you stay, you feel how sun move, and every hour have different configuration. This is in the back yard. I make a natural pool and collect rain, drainage of the rain from the house, go to the house to go back to the ground. This is the idea of here. Here faced me a problem on that design. At the beginning, was intending to make the living room a room, but it's developed on the side. I make addition. I make here I make over the road. I have roads. I have like dawais, corridors, very slow height. But I give over the corridor. I give it inside the room over there. I play with these spaces, and also I make windows. Between the windows themselves of the rooms. Sometimes if you can utilize light in other room and save electricity. Later on I found the hall. I have a living hall like almost 7.5 meters by 7.5 meters square, and there is no wood that long there. And I solved this by creating this column. I make a column, and it is like a flower grid, and have a ring beam, and I make the wood. This shorten the span, and make the wood can cover the area. And I have a tower of light, and I make a small dome at the top of the roof. This works as a heater in winter. Sun can go inside and keep the place warm. At summer, you don't want heat. This you have sheets, you have clothes, you can throw over it to dry and same time keep it. And this done. This is the corridors. The corridor here. This corridor can go from south to north completely, and here become wind shaft. The wind come blowing and this if you open it, and it's distributed to the rooms. Here this is the room I talked to you for my mother. Here enter. Each room have a neck. I will talk a neck soon. Here another. It is a window, but it can be passed, not very high. When mother here, she can open this window. She is overlooking the hall and see her grandkids. If they want to shut them out, they close the window at their convenience. Yeah, here I call this a grand axiom. This door at the setback on the front of the house, that was it was developed later on the site because it is the corridor always go straight, then broke, then go, then broke, then go again. There is no straight completely, and always transferring. Because here I open it on the setback, and setback is closed. I call it grand axiom. Here, the neck and shoulder. Here, when you enter a room, you enter a small space, like 1 meter by 1 meter. You cannot see the room. When you open it, you can't see the room. The room, as you move in, it is open up slowly to you. This make you make surprises, make you enjoy the space and a place. The shoulder is here. The wall, if you see the wall here, this is shoulder. Shoulder is give the wall more support. I buy from the junkyards, and here one treatment of I bought sometimes tiles, broken tiles. I take them to the and try to make best of them. Here, I will talk about this experience here. At the cycling, I saw like a load of black hose. And that time in Bahrain, the water supply come from the source is very hot. And people using the what should be called, using it as a hot water, and using the water, the heaters, as a cold water. But the water in the heaters not enough. When I saw this load of loads at the track at cheap prices, I said to my mind, let's take it and make the hose which is feeding the water to house like 3 kilometers long. And it will be storage for the water. And by looping it, it has become like a wind tower. It will cool off, and the water. I did it. It is successful. The water can. I have like maybe 19 or 20 of these over the houses. Each one not less than 100 meter. This is a different ceilings effect. This, when I took my kids to participate on designing, selecting, they want to see colors. They pick red for the woods, but they didn't. Maybe they were young at that time to participate more than picking a color. Some of the windows, doors, accessories, screens. Here to show you the varieties on the rooms. Here you find a mashrabiyya before entering the house. This was done for a purpose, not for the purpose of I like mashrabiyya or it look nice. Here the entrance of al-harim. If there is one of relatives visiting and some males, the girls they will like to see who is there to take the proper suitable wear to see them. So this is the wind tower on the house. I put effort to create spots good for taking photography, because people visit this big. Also, I try, when I choose a place for a window or I try to adjust it to see good view, to have good picture from the window. Here, some of the stairs in the house. I don't have like a stair tower only. It's a small few steps distributed along the house. Here it has symmetrical little. shadow. A lot of places have shadow, and you can see shadow a lot. Here I try sequence. I hope you give you the impression that you have entered the house. This is the daily entrance. You just enter the house. Here, when you enter here you go to continue your way to the living quarter. Here you go to the kitchen. Here, that's the entrance to the court of the kitchen. Here, the entrance to the main court and living quarter. Here, the door, which is go to the sit back. Here, this is the door. Go to the sit back. Here you reach corridor. You either go to the roof or you go to living area. Now you have two options. Here you go to the step up to the roof. Here you are entering the main hall. When you go on the spin, you see, this is what you see. You see the moving around. Here you continue on the hall. Here you reach the top of here you see the room. Here the hall, which is for the kids. This is a big hall for the family sitting. Here you see the roof is fragmented to spaces and different level, so they shaded each other. The places which is no shade, I shaded it anyway to keep the roof. Here room, here shurfa and the top. Here take you to the back, another narrow corridor. From the roof you can overlook, there are 7 patios. Here you go to the neck, going to the back yard. Here looking to the outside gate in the corner. Here another space, roof space. And extended to the, this is the maid room, and here extended roof terrace for her room. And this is the back side yard, and here the water drain. Here the backside door. Here the gym has an extension. I did some experiment while doing the house. Here, these were blocks and these were blocks. These blocks here cut an U shape and put shutter under it, and I pour concrete with steel. I try to make buildings economic and also shorter time. Here another, I make wood and I built concrete on it. I have bigger, but it was plaster. I used the wood as a lintel instead of concrete. It gives you shortcut in building, and cheaper and faster. And even in those, I remember when we started building this, we extended. We don't build it over 4. We built 2, and then we built 2 other. And here, part of the experiment, here we put wood pile, we put blocks over it to see how it is tolerate dead woods, heavy woods. I satisfy. We can build by blocks. You can build economically and help the other. Some details from the house. Here, these niches. I remember I have a photo for this. When people come, I will try to see where is this, and they go to the house to find it. Here, see, I want to. The plaster here is I use sand. I use ghabra, and I use noura, and inside the house I put gypsum. I didn't put gypsum and outside. Outside more ghabra to make it harsh. The one inside, also I added coconut oil. The oil for work mobility and also for make the little bit waterproof. The coconut oil give good smell. I remember especially the good smell from the building, and but it is easily to crash. When we fix the here, if you see, you can, even with your hand, you can press the plaster. It is not solid. You can leave print for your when you press with your hand, or if you put your nails easily. You can go through it very easily, and if I go to ghabra side, it will become harsh and have tolerance. This is al-hammam. I make hole here, and I think I am the first one who make holes on the. I make it for the pairs to enjoy this. And I found them, they are like to go inside, go and play on it, yes. And here, I bought this for the waste bin, and family can throw the garbage from inside the house, not necessary to go out. But it doesn't work because when I put a bin here, they take it, they don't return it to its place, they throw it over here, and there is no, but it is, it's a nice idea, but unfortunately had not worked. Yeah, here an interesting story. Here I have electrical meter. If you see this here, rectangular here, it was left open. I want to put the meters facing outside. So electrical, when they want to see the gauge, they don't have to knock the house, go inside, and or put an estimated value on you. But the electricity refused to make the meter, only the meter. They said, if you want to put outside, make everything, all the switches on the outside. But not give us this, how we can cut the electricity from you. They didn't allow it. So these are asphalt from the road. There was nearby cutting asphalt. I built with it the gap. I used the asphalt. Yeah, here interesting window. The ground, here the ground, going down here, I make the window walk with the contour of the ground. This is here an interesting story. I visited Morocco, Fas, 96. I have Bilbal, I correspond with him. I like very much his handwriting. We were exchanging letters. And he told me they have calligraphy shop in Fas. I visited Fas in 96. I asked about him. I want to see him since I am in Fas. I asked the people who work in calligraphy. They said, we don't have Khattat by this name. I was surprised. Then they said, oh yes, there is Khattat Qubur. This is the graveyard. There is so I went to the graveyard, and at the graveyard, I'll tell you later what happened in the graveyard. Before, I can tell you here, Arwadan, and I will tell you also Arwadan. I asked him, I like your style of writing, write for me Arwadan, Beit al-Band, and I give him this. And he shouted for another man to I said, no, I want you to do it. He said to me, I am not allowed to write. They are traditional. What he only do, prepare them. He writes numbers, but the calligraphy done by other. And this was set by the tradition, by his father. I talked with his father. I told him, "You are so cruel on your son. Let somebody else evaluate your son." And he said to me, "No, his mind is thinking to immigrate to Europe. If he concentrate, he will be here." But I let him. I insist on him to write for me this. He wrote, he signed, he told me, "Don't show it to my father, he will kill me if he saw me I had done this." They are trained. So even if they are traditional, they have kind of how to formulate and how you graduate and you become a master of your and Fas graveyard, I saw on the wall so many holes, and the birds are living on these walls on the way. I bring this idea. I make walls. This after finish the house, I make it again, an addition, and it is spread on the house. So the walls, here I have some experiment in coloring stones with the stains to give it effect. Arwadan, it's the name, I give it to my house. Actually, I said to my colleague Indians, give me an Indian name that it is also in Arabic. They can name the house a bit. I asked them to. One of them suggested to me to call it Ashir. And I kind of like it because it took me 13 years living in the house, working on it. I didn't receive as much I wish, but alhamdulillah ala kulli hal. And another one suggests to call it rainbow. And third one, the third one he didn't suggest, but he told me that Ashir is a name of a house of one of the Indian cinema stars. He has a house named Ashir. And Rainbow, he told me the house was visited by one time by Indian students. And I was not there, but this labor told me. He said the girls, when they saw a rainbow on the house, and the hall, especially because they have many colors windows. If you spray just the water, you can see. They saw rainbow in the hall, and they called rainbow, and he said the girls will give the name, not him, and that he took it from me. So I started thinking. I took the word Ruwaidan. I said Ruwaidan, and it means slowly. Said Arad means come slowly. That's the way I derive it. And always In Arabic, we like al-muthanna. We like the dual. We say Bahrain itself is a dual. Dareen and also in Bahrain, Wadian and Sitra. So al-muthanna is more sometimes than singular. So I said Arwadan. Arwadan means to Arwad. And I select the name. But later I met with Dr. Ali Al-Madani. He was head of Arabic in Bahrain University. He told me that Arwadan is, you cannot make derivatives from the word Ruwaidan. Ruwaidan just itself. There is no verb out of it, or you cannot. The اشتقاق, okay, with the normal word, but this word is Sumai, you cannot. What said Arwadan is noun. Arwad means come a pioneer, not come slowly. It is down right of two who come as a thank you, and I hope but I hope your questions and your comments further